Buckle up, everyone, because today we're diving deep into the world of AI, specifically a company called DeepSeek.
DeepSeek, huh?
Yeah, they're based in China, and let me tell you, they're making waves.
What have they done?
They've come out with this new AI model, R1. It's like their answer to ChatGPT, and it's got everyone talking, especially the folks over at OpenAI.
Oh, really? What's so special about it?
Well, that's what we're going to dig into today. Is DeepSeek the real deal? Are they a threat? Or are they just hype? Plus, we're going to look at all the security concerns and the global power dynamics swirling around them.
Sounds like a fascinating deep dive. I'm ready.
Me too. All right, so first things first. What really caught my eye is DeepSeek's claim that they built this model, R1, for just $5 million.
$5 million?
$5 million, that's it.
That's pretty wild considering what other companies are throwing around for AI development.
Right, so that's got people in Silicon Valley. Well, let's just say they're a little bit shook.
I bet they are. I mean, $5 million, that's like pocket change for these tech giants.
Exactly. So it makes you wonder, does DeepSeek have some secret sauce, or is there something else going on here?
It definitely raises a lot of questions. Like, could this mean that AI development is about to become a lot more accessible? Could smaller companies, even startups, start competing with the big boys?
I mean, it's a game changer if they really did pull it off for that price. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's true that $5 million is incredibly cheap for something like this. But we got to remember, building an AI model isn't just about the money. It's also about the data. You need tons of it. And that's where things get a bit tricky with DeepSeek.
How so?
Well, they're using ByteDance for their cloud services. You know, ByteDance, the company behind TikTok.
Ah, right. Okay, I see where you're going with this. Data security, especially with a Chinese company involved.
Exactly. It's tapping into those same anxieties we see with TikTok. Who has access to all that data?
Yeah.
And what are they doing with it?
Not to mention the fact that OpenAI, they're not exactly thrilled with DeepSeek.
What do you mean?
They're straight up accusing DeepSeek of using a technique called distillation to create R1. Essentially, they're saying DeepSeek ripped off their models to get ahead.
Hold on. Distillation. What is that?
Right. It sounds kind of sci-fi, doesn't it? Basically, it's like taking all the knowledge from a huge library and squeezing it into one little book.
So they're saying DeepSeek stole their secrets, like some kind of industrial espionage.
Kind of, but it's more like they captured the knowledge without doing all the hard work of training the model from scratch.
So it's not a direct copy, but it's still pretty shady, right?
Yeah, it's definitely in that ethical gray area. And it raises questions about intellectual property in AI. Can you actually own the knowledge inside an AI model?
That's a tough one.
It is, and it's something the courts are still figuring out. But here's the kicker. OpenAI might be on thin ice themselves. They're facing their own lawsuits about using copyrighted material to train their models.
Oh, wow. So they're accusing DeepSeek of doing the same thing they might be guilty of.
Yeah, a bit hypocritical, don't you think? It's a classic case of the pot calling the kettle black.
It definitely adds another layer to this whole saga. And it makes you wonder, who's really playing fair in this AI game?
Right. But here's another twist. While OpenAI is crying foul, other companies are lining up to work with DeepSeek.
Really? Ooh.
Well, platforms like Perplexity AI and Blackbox AI, they're already incorporating R1 into their systems.
That's surprising, given all the controversy. What do you think that says about the industry's attitude towards DeepSeek?
It tells me there's a real hunger for what DeepSeek's offering, specifically open source AI models.
Open source. So anyone can use it.
Yeah, basically the code is out there for anyone to grab, tinker with, and build upon.
That's a pretty radical departure from the way companies like OpenAI have been operating, keeping their models closely guarded.
Absolutely. It's like DeepSeek's shaking up the whole power structure of the AI world.
I see what you mean. It's almost like they're the Robin Hood of AI, giving away the good stuff.
Right. But we all know with great power comes great responsibility. So are there any downsides to this open source approach?
Well, one major concern is, you guessed it, security.
Uh-oh, that doesn't sound good. What happened?
Security researchers at Wiz Research, they found a pretty massive security hole in DeepSeek's system.
Like, how massive are we talking?
They discovered a whole database full of sensitive information just sitting there out in the open. Chat logs, API keys, even personal details of users.
Oh, wow. That's a data breach waiting to happen. And this isn't just about your average data leak, right?
No, it's not. This is AI data we're talking about. It's not just funny cat videos. This stuff has the potential to be seriously damaging.
Business secrets, national security, the whole shebang.
Exactly. This security lapse raises some big red flags about how DeepSeek handles data. And to make matters even worse, DeepSeek's claiming that they're being targeted by cyber attacks left and right.
Cyber attacks. You mean like someone's trying to sabotage them?
It's possible. I mean, they're a new player shaking things up. Maybe someone's trying to take them down a peg or two.
Or maybe hackers are just taking advantage of their security flaws. It's kind of hard to tell who's behind it all, right?
It is. It could be rival companies, it could be nation states, or just your run-of-the-mill cyber criminals. It's a murky world out there.
It is. So we've got this upstart company, DeepSeek, with groundbreaking technology, but they've got some serious security issues and maybe even some enemies.
And don't forget the geopolitical angle.
Right, right. We can't ignore that. DeepSeek's a Chinese company, and that adds a whole other layer of complexity.
Exactly. And some folks in the West are getting pretty nervous about that.
I can imagine. Are we talking like a potential AI Cold War?
Well, there are definitely some concerns that China is trying to become the dominant force in AI. And some experts are worried about what that could mean for the U.S. and its allies.
So it's not just about who has the best tech. It's about who controls the future of AI.
Exactly. And the stakes are incredibly high. We're talking about economic dominance, national security, the whole 9 yards.
I mean, we've already seen this play out with other Chinese tech companies, right?
Oh, absolutely. Look at what happened with TikTok. The U.S. government practically banned it over fears that data could end up in the hands of the Chinese government.
So DeepSeek's walking into a pretty tense situation. They've got amazing technology, but they're also facing a lot of suspicion and distrust.
They are. And it's going to be interesting to see how they navigate this geopolitical minefield.
It is. But here's something that really throws a wrench into things. Remember Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI?
Yeah, the guy who's been criticizing DeepSeek.
The very same. Well, he went on X, the platform formerly known as Twitter, and he publicly praised DeepSeek's R1.
He did? Seriously? That seems a bit odd, considering all the accusations flying around.
It does, doesn't it? It's like he's acknowledging their innovation while still being wary of them.
Maybe it's like a grudging respect. We don't like you, but we gotta admit you're pretty good.
That's a great way to put it. And it shows you just how complex this whole situation is.
Absolutely. It's not just black and white. There are shades of gray, and it's making everyone rethink their assumptions about the AI landscape.
Okay, so DeepSeek's arrival has thrown the AI world into a bit of a tizzy. You've got OpenAI crying foul, other companies jumping on board, and a whole lot of uncertainty about what it all means.
Right. And all of this is happening against the backdrop of rising geopolitical tensions and some serious concerns about data security.
And let's not forget the impact this is having on Silicon Valley. DeepSeek's entry into the market has sent shockwaves through the tech world, and some of the biggest companies are feeling the heat.
Yeah, I saw that NVIDIA's stock took a nosedive after DeepSeek announced R1. It seems like investors are starting to get a little jittery.
They are. NVIDIA, Microsoft, Meta Platforms, even Oracle, they all saw their stock prices drop. And we're not talking small change here. Some of these companies lost billions in market value.
Billions, wow. That's a pretty clear sign that DeepSeek is a force to be reckoned with.
It is, and it raises some big questions about the future of the AI industry. Is DeepSeek just a temporary disruptor, or are we witnessing a more fundamental shift in the balance of power?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's something that a lot of people are trying to figure out right now.
One person who has some interesting thoughts on this is Miles Brundage, a former policy staffer at OpenAI. He's been talking about the possibility of a multipolar world in AI. What do you think he means by that?
Well, it sounds like he's suggesting that. He's suggesting that we might not see one single country or company dominating the AI landscape in the future.
Oh, so instead of like one big AI empire, we might have multiple AI powerhouses, each doing their own thing.
Exactly. Think of it like, well, think about the world today. You have different countries with their own political systems and their own areas of influence.
Right, like the US, China, Europe, all those big players.
Yep. And Miles Brundage is saying we might see something similar in the AI world. We could have a US-centric AI ecosystem, a Chinese-centric one, maybe even a European one, each with its own strengths and its own way of doing things.
Okay, so instead of a single global AI superpower, we could have multiple AI superpowers.
Precisely.
That's pretty mind-blowing when you think about it. But it also sounds a bit scary, doesn't it? I mean, what if all these different AI powers start clashing with each other?
It's definitely a possibility. Competition can be a good thing, but it can also lead to conflict. And in the world of AI, that conflict could have some pretty serious consequences.
Like what? Give me an example.
Well, imagine a situation where different AI systems, developed in different parts of the world, can't talk to each other. or where data is locked away in silos and nobody wants to share.
So like a Tower of Babel situation, but with AI.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And that could really slow down progress. It'll be like trying to build a global internet where everyone speaks a different language.
Right, right. So it's like a double-edged sword. We could have more diversity and more innovation, but we could also end up with a more fragmented and less cooperative AI landscape.
You hit the nail on the head.
So how do we prevent that from happening? How do we make sure that we're all working together, even as the AI world becomes more multipolar?
That's the big question, isn't it? And there's no easy answer. But one thing that could help is establishing some kind of global framework for AI development.
A framework, like some kind of rule book that everyone agrees to follow.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
We could have international agreements that promote responsible AI development and data sharing, kind of like the agreements we have for things like trade or climate change.
That makes sense. But is that even realistic, given how divided the world is right now?
It's definitely a challenge,
Yeah.
but I think it's a challenge worth tackling. Because the alternative, a world where AI is developed in isolation with no regard for global cooperation, is a pretty scary thought.
Okay, so we need some kind of global framework to make sure that AI is developed responsibly and that everyone benefits. But what would that actually look like in practice? Can you give me a concrete example?
Sure. Let's say a team of researchers in the U.S. develops a breakthrough AI system that can diagnose diseases with incredible accuracy.
Sounds pretty amazing.
It is. And at the same time, a team in China creates an AI system that can personalize education for every student.
Okay, so we've got two amazing AI breakthroughs, one in healthcare and one in education.
Right. Now, in a multipolar world, these teams could choose to work together, sharing their knowledge and expertise.
So instead of each country trying to go it alone, they could collaborate and build something even better.
Precisely. And that's where the concept of open source AI comes into play.
Open source. Didn't we talk about that earlier with DeepSeek?
We did, and it's actually a really important part of this whole discussion. Because if the code behind these AI systems is open and accessible, it makes it much easier for people to collaborate and share ideas.
Oh, I see. So instead of each team hoarding their secrets, they could make their code available for anyone to use and improve upon.
Right. And that could lead to a much faster pace of innovation because everyone would be building on each other's work.
So open source AI could be a key part of creating this more collaborative and less fragmented AI landscape.
Exactly. And it could also help to make sure that the benefits of AI are more widely shared, not just concentrated in the hands of a few powerful countries or companies.
That's a really important point. But I'm also curious about what all of this means for the average person. I mean, most people aren't AI experts, so how will this multipolar AI world impact their lives?
Well, I think the biggest impact will be felt in terms of the products and services that are available. We're already seeing AI being used in everything from healthcare to transportation to entertainment.
Right.
And as AI becomes more powerful and more widespread, it's going to touch even more aspects of our lives.
So it's not just a technology that's happening out there somewhere. It's something that's going to have a real impact on our daily lives.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important for everyone to be aware of what's happening and to have a say in how AI is developed and used.
So this isn't just a discussion for tech experts and policymakers.
Not at all. This is a conversation that everyone needs to be a part of.
Okay, so you, the listener, you're part of this too. You have a voice in this. But what exactly can you do? How can you make a difference in the world of AI?
Well, first of all, just stay informed. Read about AI, learn about how it's being used, and talk to people about it. The more you know, the better equipped you'll be to make informed decisions.
So knowledge is power, as they say.
It really is. And second, don't be afraid to ask questions. If you see a company using AI in a way that seems unethical or unfair, speak up. Let them know that you're paying attention.
So hold those companies accountable.
Exactly. And third, support the organizations that are working to make sure AI is developed and used responsibly. There are a lot of great groups out there fighting for things like transparency, fairness, and accountability.
So get involved. Make your voice heard.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, the future of AI is up to all of us.
That's a powerful message. And speaking of the future, let's bring this back to DeepSeek. They've certainly made a splash, but their future is still uncertain. What are some of the biggest challenges they're facing right now?
Well, one of the most immediate challenges is regaining trust after that major security breach. They need to convince people that they can handle sensitive data responsibly.
So they've got some work to do on the security front.
Definitely. And then there's the whole geopolitical angle. DeepSeek is a Chinese company operating in a world where tensions between China and the West are running high.
Right. So how do they navigate that?
It's a tough balancing act. They need to be seen as a global player, but they also need to address the concerns of Western governments and companies.
It sounds like they're walking a tightrope.
They are,
Uh,
and there's no easy answer. But I think the key is to be as transparent as possible. Open up their systems to independent audits, engage in dialogue with Western stakeholders, and show that they're committed to international standards.
so prove that they can be a responsible and trustworthy player on the global stage.
Exactly.
And what happens if they fail to do that? What if they can't overcome these challenges?
Well, it could really set back the whole idea of a multipolar AI world.
How so?
Because if DeepSeek stumbles, it could reinforce the idea that Chinese companies can't be trusted with sensitive data.
Oh, so it could make Western countries even more reluctant to collaborate with China on AI.
Right. And that would be a real shame, because it would mean missing out on the incredible potential for innovation and progress that comes from working together.
So DeepSeek's success or failure could have ripple effects throughout the entire AI ecosystem.
Absolutely. And it's a reminder that the future of AI is not just about technological innovation. It's also about geopolitics, ethics, and the choices we make as a global community.
Right, and those choices are going to have a profound impact on all of our lives.
They will. So it's important that we approach this new era of AI with both excitement and caution. We need to be bold in our pursuit of innovation, but we also need to be mindful of the potential risks.
That's a great point. And it leads me to another question that I've been thinking about. DeepSeek's emergence has caused quite a stir in the financial markets. We talked earlier about how NVIDIA and other big tech companies saw their stock prices drop. Do you think that's just a temporary blip, or is it a sign of something more significant?
That's a great question.
Over.
That's a great question. And honestly, it's tough to say for sure, but I think DeepSeek's impact on the market could be more than just a blip.
Really? Why do you think that?
Well, their whole approach is different, right? They're building AI models for a fraction of the cost that other companies are spending.
Yeah, that $5 million figure is pretty mind-boggling.
Right. So if they can keep doing that, if they can keep innovating at such a low cost, it's going to put a lot of pressure on those established players.
I mean, nobody wants to be left behind in the AI race, especially not when someone else is figuring out how to do it cheaper and faster.
Exactly. So these big companies are going to have to adapt. They might have to lower their prices, find ways to be more efficient, maybe even rethink their whole business model.
So DeepSeek's disruption could actually lead to a more competitive AI market.
I think it's definitely a possibility. And a more competitive market is usually good for consumers, right? It could lead to more innovation, lower prices, and a wider range of products and services.
So DeepSeek could actually end up democratizing access to AI, making it more affordable and accessible for everyone.
That's the hope, anyway. But of course, there's always a flip side to these kinds of disruptions.
What do you mean?
Well, as the AI market becomes more competitive, some companies are going to get squeezed out. Some might even go out of business.
Right, right. So there will be winners and losers in this AI revolution.
There always are. And unfortunately, that means some people might lose their jobs, especially those who are working in areas that are easily automated by AI.
That's a sobering thought. We can't just focus on the shiny new tech and forget about the people who might be negatively impacted.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We need to be thinking about how to support those workers, how to retrain them for the jobs of the future.
So it's not just about the technology, it's about the people.
Exactly. And it's about making sure that the transition to an AI-powered world is as smooth and equitable as possible.
This has been a truly fascinating deep dive. We've covered so much ground, from the technical details of DeepSeek's AI model to the geopolitical tensions and the economic implications, and you've given us a lot to think about.
My pleasure. It's been a great conversation.
It has, and I think it's safe to say that DeepSeek is a company that we're going to be hearing a lot more about in the years to come.
I agree. They've certainly made a splash, and it'll be interesting to see what they do next.
It will. And for all of you listening out there, keep your eyes on DeepSeek and on the rapidly evolving world of AI. Because as we've seen today, this technology is going to have a profound impact on all of our lives.
It will.
Yeah.
So stay informed, stay engaged, and don't be afraid to ask questions, because the future of AI is being written right now, and we all have a role to play in shaping it.
That's a great note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. And until next time, keep exploring the fascinating world of AI.